Welcome to Gospel Health and Healing Network. Today we want to look at a need or the need for change. When we look at our individual health, we look at the health of our families, of the community around us, of the church members that we fellowship with from time to time, even the nation that we live in. And if we would expand this to the entire world, we will discover that the statistics are getting worse as the days go by. All around us, we see people suffering with sicknesses and diseases that 50 years ago, some of them never existed. Some of them we didn't even know about. But today, there are so many sicknesses and diseases plaguing humankind that if something is not done and done right now, we can kiss the world goodbye as a species. I want to bring our minds to the very beginning, as it were, or to set a foundation for health. You see, too often we ask the question, what can I do? But really, that question should have been addressed way down in our youth. What can we do to be healthy? What can we do to grow so that sickness and disease will not be a part of our very lives? So let's look at the need for change. As human beings, we are given from the very beginning one life to live. We have one lease on life. And so it is absolutely necessary that we apply the given principles to life. Life is not a matter of chance. It is not a matter of, we act and this may be right, we act and that may be wrong. We are trying things out. It is absolutely important and necessary for us to know the very basics or the principles by which we should live our lives. Every individual should ask himself two important questions. Question number one: how can I invest my powers to gain the greatest profit? How can I invest my talents, my gifts and abilities so that I can gain the greatest profit? It's like money and investing. How can I invest my money to get the greatest amount of wealth? And that's a question we are familiar with when it comes to finances. But what about our health? We need to invest our health so that we can get the greatest profit from our health. And question number two: how can I do the most for the glory of God and the benefit of my fellow men? You see, friends, we are not on planet Earth by chance. We were created wonderfully and perfectly. And the Creator, the God who created us, invested in us. And so we are called by Him to live so that we will glorify Him and that we will benefit mankind. No man, as it is said, lives alone. No man lives for himself and by himself. Whatever we do, good or bad, affects the lives of others. You see, life is only valuable as it is used for the glory of God and the benefit of our fellow men. Without these two principles guiding and leading in our lives will have no meaning. There would be no value to our lives. So it is necessary for us to carefully consider, how can I live today to glorify God? How can I live so that my fellow men can be benefited from my life? Important questions indeed. Our first duty toward God and our fellow men is self-improvement. We should seek to be improving daily, improving every aspect of our lives. When we truly consider and understand the talents, the gifts, and the abilities that God has placed in our being, when we understand that, we would want to use them wisely. We would want to develop them. For God does not give us perfectly developed talents and gifts. He gives to us gifts and talents so that we can develop them as we use them, so that He can be glorified and mankind, our neighbors, can be blessed. Every faculty of our being should be cultivated to the highest degree of perfection. Time should be spent, and this is important. Time should be spent in the establishment and preservation of physical and mental health. And there's a lot we would have to say about this as we go on, because as I said a few minutes ago, this is just laying a foundation. But I want you and I need you to understand that we need to spend time in the establishment and the preservation of physical and mental health. And this is necessary because, my friends, if we do not have health, we really do not have anything. We cannot enjoy the blessings. We cannot enjoy life if we do not have health. You see, we cannot afford to dwarf or to cripple any function of the body or the mind. If we do this, if we cripple the functions of our body or our mind, we would suffer the consequences. And this is a principle that I would have us understand. Every individual has the ability to choose. And as we choose daily, we are either choosing life or we are choosing death. Think about it clearly. Whenever we put a glass to our mouth and drink whatever it is, we are either promoting good health or we are promoting disease and sickness. Whenever we place a spoonful of food to our lips, we are either taking in health or disease. It's a choice that we all have to make. And in order to make that choice to glorify God and to bless mankind, we need to understand and to know the principles that governs our being. Every man has the opportunity to make himself whatever he chooses to be. And that's a great responsibility. That's about the most important responsibility we have on planet Earth, that we can make ourselves whatever we want to be, whatever we choose to be. You see, the blessings of this life and the future immortal state are in reach of every individual. You can experience all the blessings that the Creator desires to give to you. You can experience them in this life right now. And you can also gain the eternal destination, the eternal kingdom that He has promised right now. You can take a hold of it. But it is important to consider the choices that we make from day to day. You see, we have the opportunity to build a character of worth, gaining strength as we go from day to day. At every step, we have the ability to build a good character. We may advance daily in knowledge, in wisdom, in virtue, in grace, etc., if we choose properly. Our faculties will improve as they are used. If they remain dormant, then they become stagnated. And we would not be, as we say, we cannot be as sharp as we ought to be. So we need to be able to use all our faculties and not allow them to be stagnated. The more wisdom we gain, the greater will be the capacity to acquire. The more wisdom we gain. So do not cease learning. Do not cease progressing in whatever we put our hands to do. Remember, we said that it's about choosing, and we are choosing life or death. Well, let's look at what we just said from the other side of the coin. We may allow our powers to rust and to become weak because of lack of use. And as I said, if we don't use it, it becomes dull. Some people say, well, if you don't use it, you lose it. And in life, some things follow that principle. Some things we do not quite lose, even though we lose most of the ability to do that thing. But it becomes dull, it becomes rusty, it becomes almost useless to us. So we have to be able to use our powers given to us. We may allow our powers to be perverted, and this is important. We may allow it to be perverted through evil habits, through lack of self-control, through moral and spiritual stagnation. It is important that we use our powers and we guard carefully, as one author says, the avenues of our souls. We ought not to indulge in evil habits, no matter how pleasurable they may seem to be. For if we indulge in evil habits, we will become evil. We would lose the ability to control ourselves. That is one of the greatest challenges that man has to face. Learn self-control. So often we desire to go one way. So often we desire to do some things. And my friends, if we do not learn to control ourselves, we cannot truly live life successfully. We are not governed by different aspects of our being. We are not governed by our taste. We are not governed by what we see and what we long to experience. We have a higher calling. And if we ought to be successful, particularly as it relates to our health, then we need to learn self-control so that we can choose and choose properly. We choose based on knowledge. We choose based on an understanding of the Creator's will for our lives. If we allow ourselves to drift away, then it becomes easy for us to be disobedient to the law of God and the laws of health. I am saying that if we allow ourselves to be drift away, if we allow ourselves to be controlled by our feelings and our emotions, and we do not develop self-control, we would reach the point where we become disobedient to the law of God and the laws of health. At that stage, appetite will control us. And the Creator wants us to control our appetite. Some individuals, they eat constantly until it is said that they eat one meal per day. They are eating all through the day. We cannot allow appetite to control us. We must be able to control our appetite, what we put in our mouth, when we put it in our mouth, why we put it in our mouth. We need to be able to answer all these questions and carefully consider. Consider, because what we put into our mouth will determine the measure of health we experience tomorrow, next week, next month, next year, and our future. If we are not careful, inclinations will carry us away. It will become easy for the powers of evil to drag us backward than to struggle against them and to go forward. And our desire is to go forward, not backward. So as we look at the aspect of health, and as we seek to apply the principles and to become healthy, these are the very basics that we need to consider. And again, I am saying that we need to change. We need to change our outlook on life. We need to change our habits, the basic habits that govern our health and our being. We need to become aware of them. And when we are aware of them, with the powers and the strength given us, we need to make the necessary changes now. And I'm saying that every young individual has a greater opportunity to experience health than the older ones. And why am I saying that? I'm saying that because as young individuals, you are at the foundation of your health. You are now growing. You are now beginning, as it were, to live. So therefore, the choices that you make can guarantee you a healthy future. But the older ones have made, some of us have made so many bad choices that we are now living with the consequences. Some of them are very difficult to correct, are very difficult to change, and in some individuals, it is nigh almost impossible to experience proper health. My desire for all of you is that as we look into the aspect of our health, that we would begin to understand the principles that governs our bodies, our personal being, and we would begin to make choices that will be necessary so that we can begin to experience proper health. Whether we are young or old, we can begin today. Today can be the first day of our healthy experience, and we can begin to make the changes necessary so that we can experience some measure or the best measure of health. It is never too late. Why not begin today, making the necessary choices so that we can experience that? I challenge you and encourage you to stay with me, to stay with this channel, to take it to your friends, like, subscribe, and share, so that as we develop the principles of health, we all can benefit. Blessings and respect to you until we meet again. Have a wonderful day.